Count Dooku played a pivotal role in the grand plan, facilitating the growth of the clone army and leading the Confederacy of Independent Systems. But what if Count Dooku never turned to the dark side? Before we continue, make sure to check out the voice actor Nick Cortez, his link will be in the description. Let's start during the Phantom Menace. Dooku for a while has been questioning the ideals of the Jedi Order and decisions of the Council. He believes they are too dogmatic and blindly follow the Senate. This is when the Sith reveal themselves. Qui-Gon returns to the temple after facing off against Darth Maul and meets with Dooku at the temple to tell him of the Sith Lord. This only enrages Dooku. He's warned the Council of a coming darkness for years, never to be taken seriously. Dooku wishes Qui-Gon good luck on his journey to Naboo, as he won't be there to protect him. We all know what happens after this. Qui-Gon dies, but Obi-Wan avenges him and kills Maul, but then promises to his master that the boy Anakin, whom he believes to be the chosen one, will be trained in the Force. Dooku only heard of the boy Anakin following Qui-Gon's death. He was surprised to hear Qui-Gon had deemed the boy the chosen one, destined to bring balance to the Force. The Sith returned, the chosen one. It can't all be a coincidence. Qui-Gon had a creative mind, yes, but he wouldn't so hastily make these claims. He goes to talk to his master Yoda, but before he enters the room, he stops to listen in. He hears Obi-Wan proclaim to Yoda that he promised his master Qui-Gon that he would train Anakin in the ways of the Force, regardless of whether it was as a Jedi or not. This made Dooku smile. Obi-Wan has Qui-Gon's stubbornness, that's for sure. The stubbornness he learnt from himself. Yoda demands that Obi-Wan rethinks this, as Dooku decides to enter and announces he will train the boy. Anakin is Qui-Gon's last legacy, and he will honor that. Obi-Wan looks up at Dooku in amazement, having never met him, and Yoda grudgingly agrees, although he feels better knowing his apprentice will train the chosen one, who sees a lot of darkness in his training. Anakin was hesitant to train under anyone other than Obi-Wan, but after hearing that Dooku was Qui-Gon's master, he accepted it excitingly. Anakin quickly learnt that Dooku was a stern and rigorous teacher. He held an unwavering belief in the Jedi Order and code, but urged Anakin to question it, not simply accept what he's taught as fact. He wanted Anakin to question, to prod deeper into the Force and not simply accept what was at face value. Anakin learned that Dooku was not like any other Jedi, and he reminded him of his first master, Qui-Gon Jinn. Dooku taught Anakin of his political ideals, and emphasized that often a Jedi's duties extended beyond mere peacekeeping. What is unique about Dooku's teachings is that he imparted wisdom about the wider galaxy and the political landscape, explaining how the Jedi Order and the Galactic Republic fit into the larger picture. The most important thing that Dooku taught Anakin was how he believes the Jedi and Senate are failing the people of the Republic and galaxy. They too blindly follow the Senate. Anakin resonated with this as he experienced this firsthand. What was different in this story is that Dooku believed the Republic to be fixable, and this was only after the Sith revealed themselves. The Senate has been corrupt and ineffective for a while now, and the Sith's existence cannot be ignored in this matter. Even since the death of Bane 1000 years ago, the Sith have been training in the shadows, and it's very likely they've infiltrated the Galactic Senate and have influence over many of its senators. And the Jedi blindly follow the Senate, infiltrated by the Sith. Dooku comes to this realization and decides he has to make change within the Order. Dooku begins looking for allies in the Order, those who believe the ways he does. If only Qui-Gon was still alive, he would have helped him. But after talking to his apprentice Obi-Wan, he gains his first ally. He learned that Master Yaddle recently left the Jedi Council, and they have a meeting. Yaddle tells Dooku that she's on his side, that he was right about so many things, and the Jedi Council should have listened. But most importantly, the Council's ignorance led to Qui-Gon's death. Dooku proclaims that the Council blindly follow the Senate that fails to serve the Republic it represents. They must change this, and the Sith resurgence has only heightened this importance. They decide to form a committee, one that will attempt to change how the Order works. But first, they need allies. They currently have the two of them, plus Obi-Wan and Anakin. Dooku recruits Sifo Dyas after he shares his vision of the galaxy on the brink of war. He, alongside Dooku, senses a coming darkness, and knows the Jedi Council is not prepared. The committee begins discussing their plan and decides to take it directly to the Council. Dooku, Dyas, Yaddle, and the new Jedi Knight Obi-Wan enter the council chambers and stand in the center.
Something to discuss with us, have you, Dooku?
Yes, Master. We believe the Republic is at great peril, and the Jedi Order is a catalyst of this.
Interesting, Dooku. What problems with the Order do you see?
The Jedi Order's problem is you, Master Yoda. No living being can wield that kind of power for centuries without becoming complacent at best or corrupt at worst. You have no idea it's overtaken you. You no longer see all the cumulative evils that the Republic tolerates and fosters, from slavery to endless wars. And you never ask, why are we not acting to stop this? Live alongside corruption for too long, and you no longer notice the stench.
Dooku continues explaining how the Jedi are too deeply involved with the Republic Senate, but this can change, and change is necessary to stop the evils that will plague the galaxy if nothing is done.
The danger of the past is not the past, but rather sleeping in an egg. When the egg cracks, it will threaten the entire galaxy. This is a passage from the Chosen Prophecy, describing the Sith's return, which we have just experienced. Yes, we have been granted the Chosen One to aid us, but if the Jedi are to defeat the Sith, we must change our ways, or we, alongside the galaxy, are doomed.
The Jedi Council are shocked with what Dooku has said, openly attacking and calling out the Grand Master. Whispers amongst members begin, but Dooku stands tall and stoic. Yoda calls for silence, and what he does next surprises everyone. He tells Dooku that what he's saying might have some truth to it, and the fact that Dooku came all this way to speak his honest thoughts in front of the council, Yoda himself would be a fool to ignore it. He thanks his apprentice for his objective viewpoint, and that if there's even a slight chance he's become complacent, he must explore this to his best ability. Yoda announces that he'll be taking temporary leave from the council and must spend time studying the Force to determine whether he's on the right path. Master Windu tries to argue against this, but Yoda's mind is up. He announces Oppo Rancisis and Yarael Poof will temporarily take over as Grand Masters of the Order. Dooku and the committee bow, and Yoda takes his leave and exits the chamber. Yoda boards his ship and leaves Coruscant immediately. He sits in the cockpit, meditating in the Force, and allows it to guide his hand when controlling the Navi computer. He jumps into and exits hyperspace at the Dagobah system and travels towards the planet. He touches down and begins hearing the voice of Qui-Gon Jinn. He speaks to Yoda and tells him he has come to open his mind to what can and must be. Yoda doesn't fully understand, but follows his order to follow the lights, as they will be his guide. Yoda asks Qui-Gon if he knows who the Sith Lord is, but only says he can guide him to a place where all answers will lie. Yoda enters his ship, and once again, the Force guides his travels. Yoda travels into a gaseous nebula and lands on the planet inside. This is where Yoda meets the Force priestesses, who represent the connection between the cosmic and living Force. They explain to Yoda how they've summoned him because he is the only one who can save the Jedi from the path it is down. If the Jedi don't change, they will perish at the hands of the Sith, and the galaxy will fall. They bestow their wisdom upon Yoda, who undergoes various tasks and trials. He is thrust throughout time as he watches the origins of the Jedi and how the ancient Jedi Order acted. They opened up Yoda's mind, which has become narrow in its old age. The priestesses teach him that the Jedi have strayed too far from their correct path, becoming too dogmatic in their views. They no longer question the galaxy and the Force, which has allowed darkness to arise in every corner. Yoda's mind is now made up. If the Jedi are to survive, they must revert back to their old ways, serving the people of the galaxy and not the Republic Senate. Answer to the living Force rather than a code. Yoda thanks the priestesses for their teachings and leaves for Coruscant. A month has passed, but he now stands in front of the council and committee led by Dooku. He asks them all to grab hold of him, and he will share his month's teaching with them. They meditate, and everyone receives visions, memories of what Yoda experienced over the past month, and they too learn what he learned. The meditation stops, and the members are thrust back. A month's worth of teaching has come in an instant. Yoda's teachings only confirmed what Dooku thought, but the other council members now realize the Jedi are on the wrong path. They all sit, and Yoda thanks Dooku. He tells him he was right all along, and because of him, they will implement changes that will pull the Jedi back onto the correct path. Dooku bows, and Yoda offers Yaddle and Dooku their seats back on the council, who graciously accept. For the next 10 years, the Jedi Council begins to implement their changes in the Order. Firstly, they relocate their temple to Tython, as they believed they were too close to the Senate and easily influenced by their leaders. They continue to have a strong relationship with the Republic, and the Senate voted to allow the Jedi to continue their work. But the Jedi Council no longer takes orders from the Senate. The curriculum within the Order also has some changes, emphasizing the importance of living in the moment and answering to the living force, but also how to differentiate between the living force and the perversion of the dark side. However, all this time, Palpatine still begins implementing the final stages of the grand plan. The Jedi continue to sense the rising darkness, but this was expected. Darkness has grown unchecked for too long. War is inevitable, there is no doubt about that. However, the outcome is undetermined. Palpatine needs a new figurehead for the Confederacy of Independent Systems, and decides upon San Hill, leader of the International Banking Clan. Palpatine in this story has no Jedi to place an order for the clone army, so he hires a loyal bounty hunter to place the order for the army under the facade of a Jedi Master, with Palpatine's financial backing. The grand plan is set in motion, and for the next 10 years, the Confederacy of Independent Systems finishes development and the clone army is growing. We reach the time of Attack of the Clones. The Senate and Jedi saw the Confederacy of Independent Systems as a huge problem. The Council could tell war was upon the galaxy, which was quickly followed by the Confederacy of Independent Systems declaring war on the Republic. Palpatine manipulates events so that the clone army is discovered and recruited to fight for the Republic against the Separatists. The Senate urges the Jedi to spearhead and become generals of the clone army of the Republic. However, they refuse. They will not be used and commanded around as soldiers. However, they will fight alongside their armies if they deem it the correct thing to do by the Force. Anakin's training under Dooku has been grueling and intense. He's become strong in the Force and has the highest potential of his age. Because the Jedi are no longer on Coruscant, Palpatine deems Anakin to be out of his reach and decides to give up on him. It will be next to impossible to manipulate Anakin, as he will never see him. In the original timeline, he saw Anakin often, through work, but would probably go years without seeing him now. It's too risky to attempt to manipulate him, and he will only bring suspicion upon himself. He'll have to die in Order 66 like the rest. He seeks out Maul, whose anger he can feel across the galaxy, and invites him to return to his side as his apprentice, who graciously accepts. The bond between Anakin and Dooku is of father and son. Anakin trusts Dooku with everything, and thus reveals to Dooku the dreams he's had of his mother's death on Tatooine. Dooku understands the importance of visions and decides to take Anakin back to his homeworld. Because they acted fast, they were able to save Shmi and bring her back to the Lars Moisture farm alive. They spend the night. Anakin is ecstatic to see his mother happy with her husband and living a free life. They talk all about Anakin's training and his adventures around the galaxy. After Anakin goes to bed, Dooku and Shmi talk. He tells her of Qui-Gon's death shortly after he left, and how now, himself, Qui-Gon's master, has taken over Anakin's training. But he tells Shmi the real reason they came. Anakin was having trouble forgetting about his mother and past. The fact she was still a slave was eating away at him. They came to free her so that Anakin could break away from the ties of his past, knowing his mother was living a free life. But seeing her married and happy was the best thing for Anakin. He concludes by telling her that this will be the last time she will see Anakin, as now he can break away from the weight of his past and embrace his future. Shmi begins to shed tears as Dooku says this, but knows he is ultimately right. Anakin cannot progress until he's dealt with his past trauma. She thanks Dooku for all he's done, and they leave the next day. Dooku begins training Anakin about the perils of attachments and how they lead to the fear of loss and greed, leading to jealousy. Attachments are selfish, a shadow of greed, and thus a path to the dark side of the Force. Many students of the Force have fallen to it before. Anakin agrees and understands. Seeing his mother happy was the best thing for him. He could begin to slowly forget about her and not be haunted by his past. This would take time, but with training, he would succeed. In this story, Anakin is never assigned to Padme, so their relationship never progresses. During his early days as a Jedi, he thought about her often, but as Dooku trained him about attachments and the Jedi ideals, she slowly began to slip from his mind. The Jedi decide to thoroughly investigate Kamino, because the Council believes it holds the key to the war. They've questioned the Kaminoans many times, who stick to their story of a Jedi Master ordering the creation of the clone army to fight for the Republic. However, this Master never said their name, nor who the clone army would be fighting against. Dooku and Anakin meditate on this thoroughly, when Anakin falls into a vision. He hears an insidious laugh, the Jedi fighting against the clones, many dying at the hands of blaster fire. He tells his master, what if the clones weren't built to fight against the Separatists, but the Jedi Order? Dooku and Anakin take these findings to the Council, who discuss. Up until now, the Jedi have always got along well with the clones. Yes, the clones follow orders, but they don't unilaterally, and have been known to disobey them if what they think they're doing is right. They don't think it's possible for them to turn on the Jedi in their current state. However, Anakin brings up the possibility that they could be programmed to do so, perhaps genetically or by some sort of control system. The Council thinks it's highly possible, and bring their scientists in to discuss the blueprint for the clones. They find the inhibitor chip in the brain of the clones, which they weren't previously aware of, but they don't know what it does. They bring this up with the head scientists on Kamino, who state the chips are to ensure the clones remain under control of the Supreme Chancellor of the Republic, and can override any action the clones are currently doing. The Jedi ask for a list of commands that the inhibitor chip can enforce, and this is when the Council learns of Order 66. High members of the Jedi Council attend the next Senate meeting and bring up their concerns regarding the Order. They want the Order to be removed from the clones database so that it can never be used. This actually has the majority support in the Senate. However, Chancellor Palpatine deems that the Order will not be removed, as it provides safety and security for the Republic in the case of the Jedi's betrayal. The Council try to argue how they've been the defenders of peace and justice in the galaxy for 1,000 years. However, Palpatine doesn't budge, and the Order stands. The Jedi Council comes to the conclusion that Palpatine is working with the Sith. With their new information, the Council begins to discuss the purpose of the clone army. It is obvious the Sith placed the order for the army, but they are also behind the Confederacy of Independent Systems. Why play both sides? Until it hits Dooku. The galactic conflict was created to make the Jedi the enemies of the peace, and change the narrative so that the galaxy would become accepting of the Sith, facilitating their rise to power with the support of the people and the Senate. Yoda says that then the Sith must be in a public position of power, whilst concealing their true identity as a Sith Lord. Multiple council members made the same realization. Palpatine isn't just working with the Sith, he is the Sith Lord. The council aligned themselves with allies in the Senate, including Bail Organa and Mon Mothma. Palpatine has served over 10 years in the Senate, far longer than the maximum sentence of 8. Bail Organa begins a committee, including 250 senators, that have signed a petition for Palpatine to step down as Chancellor of the Republic, as his sentence is well over. They present this to the Senate, and chaos erupts in the chambers, arguments back and forth. There is a lot of support for the petition, but also a lot of opposition. Organa states that if the petition meets a majority in the Senate, then they'll have no choice but to forcefully remove Palpatine from office due to his unconstitutional campaign. By the next day, the petition has reached over 60% of the Senate votes, and the Jedi Council assists Bail Organa as he, alongside Fang Zar, Bana Brimu, Garm Bel Iblis, Ni Alvla, and the other members of the committee, enter Palpatine's office to arrest him. Bail Organa approaches first, claiming Palpatine to be an enemy of the Republic and that he should hand himself in quietly to avoid conflict. Palpatine stands up and tells Organa he's committing treason, who tells him a Sith Lord will never be in control of the Republic. Palpatine smirks and presses a button under his desk, and the doors to the office open and rush in his loyal guards and clone troopers. The council and senators turn, but at this moment, Palpatine opens his communicator and mutters the words,
"Execute Order 66.
Yoda drops his staff in pain, but Palpatine sends lightning at the Jedi who attempt to block. Clones continue to rush in, 5 to 10 at a time, and Palpatine thinks this is the perfect opportunity to take out the council. Maul rushed in out of a hidden room and ignited his double-bladed lightsaber to head for the Jedi. Palpatine joins him, and they slowly begin advancing. If it was just the two Sith here, they would stand no chance whatsoever. However, with hundreds of clones storming the room, the battle is fairly equal. Oppa Rancisis falls first to Palpatine's blade, and Depa Billaba is followed quickly by Maul. Yoda and Windu turn to face the two Sith, as the rest focus on the clones. They are barely holding a proper defense against the blaster fire, and can't find any room to counterattack. Windu engages Palpatine in close quarter combat, mere inches away from each other every time they swing. Maul's double blade proves effective against Yoda's acrobatic style, but the Jedi Master is too strong, pinning Maul's blade to the ground and jumps up to finish what Kenobi could not. Palpatine senses this and can tell the tide of the fight is turning. He pushes Mace back with the Force and wastes no time in throwing his lightsaber out the window. He presses a button on his wrist, which calls a speeder nearby. He jumps out of the window and is mere meters away from landing into the speeder and making his escape, as Anakin lands before him and ignites his lightsaber. Palpatine is forced to equip his blade, but Anakin fakes him out, delivering a kick to the nose which puts Palpatine on his back. He swings at Anakin's ankles, who flips over him mid-air and swings across Palpatine's chest and upper arm. He lands and points his blade towards Palpatine's neck, and by this time, Yoda and Mace are mid-air, jumping towards them. They restrain Palpatine and arrest him. Bail Organa's committee successfully takes control of the Senate, and democracy returns. An election is held for a new Chancellor, and of course Organa wins, after his victory in arresting Chancellor Palpatine. The Clone War is not over, however the Separatists are significantly weakened following Palpatine's arrest. The Jedi Order suffered huge losses during Order 66, with over half its members being killed. The Council holds a meeting, and invites Anakin, who was pivotal in capturing Sidious. Dooku stands next to Anakin, and puts his hand on his shoulder.
Without Anakin, we would not have captured Palpatine. He is undoubtedly the chosen one. Yes, we suffered horrific casualties during the war and Order 66, but the prophecy states that only through sacrifice of many Jedi will the Order cleanse the sin done to the Nameless. Their sacrifice will not be forgotten, and today will be remembered as the day the Jedi Order moved forward as peace and prosperity was restored to the galaxy.
Anakin was invited to sit on the Jedi Council and became a Master of the Order. The Council remained on Tython even after the war ended. They were committed to restoring their numbers, but also began their work in regions of space not under control of the Republic. They had a commitment to serving all people of the galaxy, not just the Republic, and pledged themselves to abolishing slavery, ending wars, and allowing equal opportunity for all, in the hope that the galaxy would prosper. Eventually Anakin, the Chosen One, would spearhead the Jedi Order and lead the defense against any entity that threatened galactic peace. If you enjoyed this video, you have to watch What If Anakin Skywalker Never Met Padme, or What If Luke Skywalker Fought Kylo Ren. If you want to support the channel, please consider becoming a member for $1 a month to see sneak peeks for video ideas and thumbnails. May the Force be with you, and I'll see you next time.